And hello, everyone. Welcome to Wanderer's Haven. Tonight, we are going to continue our wonderful journey in Ysterra Chaos Rising. Big shout out to our missing compatriot in the internet spaces, Ian. He is unfortunately not able to make it this evening. He's got other obligations that he is tending to with family, and we wish him the absolute very best that everything works out, bro. We miss you. Come back to us soon. We miss you. Before we jump into tonight's festivities, I want to say thank you to everyone, particularly my wonderful players that are here with me tonight. We will get to meet all of them here in just a few moments. And in particular, I would also like to shout out all of you fine viewers that are watching us, whether it be live or in VOD. Shout out to you, Stacy. We love all of you. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful adventure that I get to tell with all of my lovely friends. Tabletop Audio. Love you guys. You guys should check out tabletopaudio.com if you're all interested. We are using a lot of the very fine music that they produce and put out there free for folks to use, and you could support them on Patreon if you want to do that as well. They're an awesome crew over there. And of course, as always, we need to shout out Jeremy, the wonderful purveyor and creator of this lovely channel that has graciously allowed me to tell these lovely stories that I get to tell. So much thanks to you, sir. You are a scholar and a gentleman. Very much a scholar. He's going to school for that right now, in case you didn't know. But enough of all of that. Let us get to the real people that you came here to see. And hello, everyone. Why don't we go around the table and introduce ourselves and the characters that you will be playing tonight. And we will kick things off with the one, the only, the Beth Masco.
Moi?
Yeah.
Hi. Very glad to be here, continuing to tell this story. And I'm Beth. And tonight I will be playing Sai, who is a Night Warden Twilight Cleric of the Ascended Nocturnus. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. And Annika, despite having a doppelganger that might have existed at one point, you are in fact still you in this day and age. Why don't you tell everyone, introduce yourself and introduce your lovely character that you are playing tonight.
Yeah, so my name is Annika, and I am playing Bucket this evening, who is a wizard fighter who is trying to get some revenge for his dad and his friend, really. Aren't we all, though? And, yeah, we're going to see how that goes tonight.
Indeed we shall. There's certainly an aftermath of things from last week's episode that need to be discussed. But before we get into all that, we have one final very lovely person that saves us all, saves our souls every single time we get into the disasters that we get into. And in particular, last week came through hella clutch with an amazing maneuver. Deb, please tell us about yourself and Maeve.
Hello, I am Deb, and I'm playing Maeve. She is a plant witch, and yeah, that was a great use of banishment. Really hoping that Rugen popped back into a very fiery room and took some damage. But yeah, we'll see what other shenanigans we can get into this evening.
Oh, I am fairly certain there will be shenanigans. Thank you, one and all, for joining us again. Let us dive right into a little bit of a recap of what has been transpiring in all of this craziness. There it is. Okay. So, welcome everyone to Ysterra, a world of my own creation that at the dawn of time, in its infancy, was bathed in the glow of two radiant suns, serenaded by a trio of unique moons. It was a world abundant with mystique and potential that was born from the final sighs of a deity who had fallen from the celestial heavens and imbued their very divine essence into the soil of the land before fading into oblivion. That divine energy permeated Ysterra, and within it settled the seeds of the Ascendant, immortal entities carrying a shard of that celestial essence, emerging throughout the ages of the world's unfolding history. The Ascendant, these divinely empowered beings, arose to not only nurture and safeguard, but also to mold both the world and its inhabitants. Their influence, while profound, has been marked by both grace and a fair bit of upheaval. The cataclysm, known as the Illuvance, is a testament to such tumultuous times. It was a calamity that altered the face of the continent, annihilating a very flourishing realm, claiming innumerable lives in the aftermath of the destruction, and inflicted wounds upon Ysterra that linger still. In this wake of this profound tragedy, the Ascendant withdrew. They created for themselves a sanctum and receded into it. And even though their dominion was weakened by this self-imposed exile, it was never wholly quenched. Ysterra then began a distinct transformation, with the traditional faiths of the world diminishing slowly. The stage was very clearly set for a shift towards a pending industrial revolution that seems destined to sculpt the future of Ysterra for ages and ages to come. The setting of our current story, however, is in the sovereign city-state of Emana. Once a humble and often overlooked farming village, it had a bit of a transformation in the wake of the Illuvance. It became a seaside metropolis, a crucible where tradition, ambition, and opportunity all intertwine. And within the boundaries of Emana, museums and vibrant cultural societies have thrived, while daring adventurers pursue hidden Intrescil artifacts beneath the waves of the sea. But, like any expansive city, Emana has its shadows. The Watchful Mariner Guard, of course, safeguard its inhabitants, but concealed factions operate in darkened corners of the city, and diverse guilds and organizations navigate complex paths, balancing the pursuit of enlightenment with the intrigue of the undiscovered. Our story now turns to those who navigate these shadowy fringes of the world. They are members of a covert group known as the Initiative, and their current mission is to investigate the dire actions of a particular gnome, seemingly driven to theft and murder after obtaining an ancient and powerful masked artifact. Their investigation, with the help of one of the gnome's former associates, has led them to uncover another mysterious group known as the Coil, which seems to know much about them. And as they infiltrated the headquarters of the Coil's leader, Count Rugen, the situation fairly swiftly spiraled out of control. There, they discovered a doppelganger of their newest ally, bent on revenge against Rugen, and they became drawn into a fierce skirmish with this Rugen and his henchmen. They found themselves embroiled in chaos at the Silver Sidewinder HQ, where Rugen proved to be a bit more formidable of an adversary than expected. But, thanks to a well-timed banishment spell, they were provided a route of escape. But as they retreated, the doppelganger was left behind, a victim of Rugen's arcane might. As Rugen's dark magic consumed the doppelganger, it revealed a little bit about its mysterious origins, although possibly adding more questions to an already complex puzzle. And forced to leave the remnants of the doppelganger behind, our team escaped the building, setting flames as a grim welcome to Rugen upon his inevitable return from the banishment. The echoes of this battle still linger in their bodies as well as the air, and the situation in Amana has become even more precarious than perhaps it already was. Time is running out, and the stakes are high. There you stand atop some of the adjacent buildings, perhaps a block or two away at this point. Wraith is holding his arm, barely moving. He is quite battered and very injured, breathing heavily, struggling with every breath to even maintain a good standing position. And I don't think Bucket fares much better than that either. But there you stand watching the Silver Sidewinder headquarters burn. You can hear the alarms crying out for fire and see the nascent beginnings of the fire brigades being formed as people are coming from all around to douse this blaze before it fully engulfs the dockside quarter. What is it that you would all like to do?
Sai will definitely go and offer a little bit of healing to any of her friends who need it, which sounds like just about everybody. Yeah, so I'll do. I don't know, guys. If we're gonna get in trouble again, I should probably be cool. I'll do some first level cure wounds for everybody.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can just
Ooh,
put the
okay.
numbers in chat if you like, as Sai
Yeah.
goes to, utters a few quick prayers to offer some light healing to companions. Wraith, of course, in his gruff thanks. Doesn't say much other than that, and just kind of winces a bit at the injuries that he still possesses. Annika, Deb, is there anything in particular you would like to do in this moment?
I don't know, Bucket's just kind of enjoying seeing the building on fire.
I mean, other than the obvious enjoyment of that, like, how is he feeling in the aftermath of that encounter with his apparent doppelganger that was created in his likeness?
Yeah, so as Sai approaches and offers the healing, just Bucket under his breath is, so there may be hope yet. And then he notices Sai there. Yes, thank you, friend.
Are you okay?
Well, there are good days and there are bad, and this one has yet to be decided. Perhaps we should move away from here?
Absolutely.
That's probably a good plan. We didn't exactly remain inconspicuous.
I mean, you got in pretty inconspicuously, and you escaped from the building through the roof. There was, flying and, spider climbing and, all sorts of special things used in your escape. You do feel like you did a decent job of not being noticed, that even if you were noticed, it would have been very minimally, as most people would be distracted by the blaze that was forming and such. So you had good cover, I'll say, to escape. Certainly if Rugen survives the flames, he'll know, but that might be for your future selves to worry about, and perhaps your current selves need different worries to occupy you.
Well, where do y'all think we should go? Somewhere out of the way?
Yeah, we'll need to report to Lady Ilrain at some point, but perhaps we can leave that for the morning and find a place to rest. Our companions don't look at their top the top of their health.
Yeah, not to be rude, you guys look awful.
Thanks.
We are prepared to fight any day and any moment. As he
Wraith
coughs
just
and
kind of
holds onto a
stares.
rib.
Just stares at Bucket, giving him the glare.
But yes, there is wisdom in what you say. Perhaps I recall a place?
Sure. You're looking for some place, I'm assuming, that is like a little bit out of the way, perhaps. Something, a place that you might be able to retreat to without drawing too much attention to yourselves.
Yeah, like out of the way and perhaps on the way to Lady Ilrain?
Well, this is a place that is still on the coast. The Whispering Willow Performing Arts Center, where Lady Ilrain is more like in the center of the city, and that's where a lot of hustle and bustle is. So perhaps you want to divert a little bit further to the north. But I would say that given, assuming that the place is still in business, Bucket does know the city better than the rest of you, and could probably lead you to a small, quaint little inn to take shelter in for the evening.
As long as they have a continental breakfast, I'm okay with it.
Yes, I've heard that there's a place you can go that has an inn on a holiday.
Anywhere, truly.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's go there. Bucket takes us through the city to some kind of inn for holidays.
Sure. Great. You end up traversing through the city streets. Do you wish to be secretive and perhaps like stealthing your way through to avoid any additional potential attention?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I will cast Pass Without Trace just to help us
Wonderful.
get through unnoticed.
I mean, if you guys would like to roll the ridiculous numbers that you get with Pass Without Trace, I'm not going to stop you. But feel free, or we can just continue right along, aided by the magic of Maeve. I will leave it up to you.
I don't want to roll poorly and have this come and bite me, so thanks, Maeve.
Fair enough. So, Maeve conjures forth some of the twilight-like magic that is Pass Without Trace. It clings to your very movements. It or causes shadows to cling to your very movements. It reduces a majority of the sounds of your footfalls and your equipment as you make your way through the night streets. And eventually, thanks to Bucket leading the way, I will say that you find your way to a quiet little corner of Imana, far away from the bustling markets and glittering spires, lies the Mossy Anchor Inn. It's a inconspicuous establishment with weathered stone walls and somewhat obscured by some very large trees with trailing vines over them, weeping willows, as most generally know of them. It has an unassuming look with very olden wooden shutters, a creaking sign bearing its nautical emblem, an anchor that just kind of sways a little bit in the evening light. And inside you find a warm hearth flickering with fire that casts a gentle glow over an array of mismatched furniture and fairly worn floorboards. The innkeeper is an elderly woman. She has knowing eyes and knows certainly when not to ask too many questions about a group of individuals that come into her inn bearing signs of injury themselves. She asks nothing more than a few coin and what food and ale she might be able to offer, while her tiny little tuxedo cat weaves between her legs and off to the various chairs and tables of the establishment. It's a fairly homey atmosphere. You can see that most of the individuals that are present, of which there's only like a handful of, appear to be equally tired individuals, perhaps that have come from a boat or caravan, perhaps, worn, weary-looking travelers themselves. You can certainly attest to this place would be the kind of place that one would seek solitude, whether it be from scholarly pursuits or perilous quests or long adventuring sea adventures. This would definitely be the quiet place that you come to avoid such responsibilities. You can hear the distant sound of crashing waves far off in the distance from the sea, and little more than that, other than the occasional whisper from one of the other patrons or a meow from the cat begging for a morsel from someone. You find yourselves a table. The proprietress, Idane, comes with food and beverage, and picks up her little cat, Spotty, and takes it away so it doesn't bother you.
Put the cat back right now.
The cat will
Just
shortly
kidding.
find its escape and make its way back to beg for a little bit of food.
Which Bucket obliges, of course.
So that was rather intense.
Yes, but I have found much comfort in this inn.
I'm so glad that you have. Maybe I'll find comfort in the inn. Did you know that there was kind of a second bucket?
I did not, but it seemed to be, I don't know, a strange magic that was both foreign and familiar somehow.
Interesting.
It was odd that it was me at the moment that the masks were taken.
Oh. Is that are there two of you then?
Unless that one survived, I could not know. Perhaps there are more.
That's strange, right?
I mean, I'd put it in the list of unusual days for sure.
I'm sorry that we weren't able to get rid of Rugen. Well, we kind of did. Temporarily, at least.
Rugen and I will have our fight another day.
Well, do you feel like you gained something from this? I mean, I guess you did get an amulet.
Yes, and it is an amulet that gives me hope because my friend may be seeking help using this amulet.
Interesting.
I think he is resisting the mask's influence, and he was looking for his friend, for me, his Bucket. The Pocket and Bucket, we are a team.
Well, that is promising.
Did you recognize the other individuals that were with him?
Rugen has always had powerful friends. Their faces may change, but their missions do not. They keep him alive.
feel like I have so many more questions. I don't even know where to begin. We did learn more, and that's great. And it seems like we've got a bit more direction. But as it happens with these things, the questions just keep rolling in. Ooh. Wraith, how are you doing?
Wraith has just been, he's now on like his second ale at this point, and he's basically drowning the physical and probably somewhat emotional pain of the experience in alcohol. And thankfully, here at the Mossy Anchor Inn, they don't water down their ale, and he is very quickly getting what he wants out of it, and he just kind of sets down the second mug partway through, gulp, and belches a little bit and says, "Oh, I'm good."
I'll take your word for it. You don't look great, but hopefully the ale is helping.
This is peak Wraith right here, baby.
If you want, I could try dunking your head in hot and cold water buckets. Perhaps that would wake you up.
That's the morning. That's for the morning. This is, and he just kind of starts drinking again.
We could also find a ship to wake you up and
just see his eyes peer over the edge of the at the rim of the mug, and he's just glaring at you. Or raising it back up and continuing to drink.
I'm curious, did either of you notice anything that pointed towards your initiative? It is odd that they are connected to you somehow.
Did I notice anything specific?
I mean, you do remember from the fight that there was an obvious recognition by Rugen in particular. Although he seemed to be more concerned about the doppelganger of Bucket more than anything else. Other than that, you didn't get much answers on that front, but it certainly implies that there is more to know. And at some point, the initiative is likely going to have to confront this situation. At the very least, you confirmed your suspicions from the previous fight that you had had earlier in the day, that the initiative secrets are perhaps under threat.
Well, I guess we should try to do away with all of this as quickly as possible then. I suppose the sooner that we get some rest, the sooner we can go to Lady Elraine and pass along the information that we have and see if, gosh, I don't know if she'll want to take control of, you know, the secrecy aspect of things while we try to find your friend.
I'm wondering if she'll take control of me. I mean, of my hope for revenge. And then he, tries to cover it up with a sip of his drink.
Sai will pat you on the shoulder. I can't even blame you.
Do we know what the amulet does?
Yes, it was an amulet that was meant to give us an opportunity to steal the amulet. Or the masks, sorry.
Okay. Is it bad that he doesn't have it now? Or does that not matter?
I think he was hoping it would send a message.
It certainly worked.
Perhaps, Maeve, you know stronger magics than I. Could we use this to find Pocket?
I don't have anything currently that would let me do that. But perhaps Lady Elaine will have some ideas.
It's worth mentioning Maeve would know that such magic does exist, even if she doesn't have access to it in this moment.
Well, it sounds like she's our natural next stop. Hopefully
I
that'll
believe
give us a
so.
little bit more direction.
Yes.
So shall we meet here in the morning so we can hit the road?
Probably for the best. Stay out of trouble, Wraith.
No promises.
And I go to sleep.
Okay. You all find your various beds for the evening. This is not a large establishment, so you end up having to double up rooms. And
I'm
thankfully,
not sharing a bed with Wraith. Not after he's been drinking. I've made the mistake before.
well,
No, thank
I
you.
was just going to say that thankfully Bucket doesn't require much in this. Like Bucket's sleep is very different from normal sleep, so Bucket is able to tolerate the snoring of drunken Wraith perhaps better than either the rest of you could. But nonetheless, you all are able to find respite for the evening, and you are able to get a long rest. I am curious, Annika, given Bucket's a peculiar way in which they find rest, what are their thoughts like throughout the evening, based on the previous day's adventure?
Yeah, so in the sentry's rest that Forged take in this evening, Bucket's initial impression is a swirl of color that mimics the colors that were displayed when Bracket fell apart, as he processes Bracket and what his existence might mean, both just to him as a Forged and in this quest of finding his friend Pocket. And as thoughts turn to Pocket, he pictures Pocket putting on the mask and the way his eyes and actions changed at that moment. And there's just a moment of like wanting to reach out and comfort and support his friend, but it's filed away as his brain continues to process these things in the Forged-like manner. And then the face settles on Rugen, and Rugen's just fierce, bloodthirsty eyes come shining out of these kind of chaotic visions as they come to Bucket, and he's just filled with this sense of fury in thinking about how Rugen has now killed Bracket and his maker, and he is feeling so close to getting Rugen and yet so far as he got away from him again this time. And as Bucket's eyes kind of refocus, he just stares out into the night and says, "I will find you, Rugen, and your death will be sweet on my blade." And then that's when Wraith just kind of snores loudly and turns over at that moment. And Bucket is like, "Oh yeah, I'm not dramatic. I'm just in a room."
Nice. Well, morning does come. As you go down for a perhaps not continental breakfast per se, but a quaint little breakfast nonetheless, of maybe some biscuits and gravy and the like. There is a little bit of talk in the inn of a fire down at the dockside. It seems as though a couple of buildings were lost before the fire could be contained, and you don't get much new info other than that, as the people that are down there, down in the inn with you, have not gone out a great length to learn more of the detail, but they it seems to be on everyone's lips, even in this quaint little far-off establishment that you have found yourselves in. Wraith, of course, is sitting there. You can tell that his head or his hair is already wet. The upper portion of his shirt is fairly soaked, implying that he might have already done the hot and cold bucket challenge, so to speak. And he appears quite refreshed, although there are still some lingering injury upon him. He nonetheless feels, or seems to feel, much better than he did the previous evening. And he says, "So, I'm going to see Lady Irene now."
I think so.
Yeah.
"Right. You good?" And he just kind of looks at Bucket.
I'm good if you are good. You are not the one who was, being all taciturny in the night.
"Oh, I'm great. Just making sure you're good too. Let's go then." And he just kind of stands up abruptly.
And then Bucket turns to Sai and Maeve and is like, "Is he always like this after he almost dies, or?"
Yes. Every time.
"Don't know what you're talking about." And he just starts walking out of the inn.
We'll follow.
Yeah.
So, as you guys make your way through the city, you of course do pick up small tidbits here and there of the news of the evening. It's on everyone's mind. There's a few criers about, proffering up, one sheets that have hastily written articles about a blaze set forth in the Silvery Sidewinder HQ, along with an adjacent warehouse having gone up in flames before it could be contained. But thankfully the fire did not spread further, and there were no ships that were put into danger and whatnot. There's still some investigations commencing about the cause of the blaze. It appears that there was a few people that died in the fire, as bodies have been discovered. But of course, the mages and the guards of the city are on the case, as it were. Probably gives particularly Maeve and Sai a moment of pause to contemplate what is to be done about it. But Bucket, with his history and knowledge of Ibana, kind of interprets the text of that to imply that such investigations normally take quite a lot of time, and it's very likely that you all will have potentially departed the city well before anyone even has an inkling to come looking for any of you. But as you make your way through the turmoil of the waking city, as it were, a metropolis such as this, people to and fro bustling thereabout, barkers and shopkeepers, all the like, business is booming along the city streets, particularly as you get closer and closer to the center of the city and the Whispering Willow Performing Arts Center. When you arrive at the center, you find that it is much different than the previous evening. The facade of the building is, of course, still glorious and resplendent, with its carved, intricate carvings all in the stonework along the outside of it. And it's a different experience seeing it in the day, rather than, the dancing of firelights cascading against the walls, making everything seem to move in the carvings. This time you get much clearer and more focused looks upon the structure itself, and are able to perhaps get a better understanding of what the artists were trying to convey as they carved some of the oldest performances to have ever graced the stage of the center. There also is not a rampant and bustling event taking place. There are not lines of people in, glorious attire trying to impress one another. There doesn't seem to be anyone on the case about trying to raise money for whatever events might be coming in the future for the center. And you yourselves know now to enter through a back entrance where it might be a little bit easier to reach Lady Elrain's dressing room. And without too much difficulty, you find yourselves walking along that familiar hall from the night before, and when you arrive at Lady Elrain's door, you can see that it is ever so slightly ajar, and you can hear a very faint humming coming from inside Lady Elrain's obvious voice.
And as we walk down the hallway, Bucket turns to Maeve and says, "So are we going to talk about how you just made Rugen go poof, or is that something we're just going to sweep under the rug and pretend never happened? That seems like a big deal to me. I just thought I would ask everybody else."
We can talk about it if you wish. It's temporary, and I can only send people away for about a minute, but I figured it would be the best way for us to escape. What do you want to know about it?
I want to know if I've done anything to piss you off, because I don't want you to send me away if I piss you off. So, my dearest Maeve, have I not told you you are beautiful because you are so stunning? Your plant magic makes my heart go, oh.
Well, thank you, Bucket. I have no plans to send you away. No need to concern yourself on that front. It is
I piss
something...
Maeve off all the time, and I've never been sent away. So
It's
I think
true.
we're good.
You've never been... That's good. That's good.
Never banished Sai, so I think you're safe.
And at that, Bucket gives a sigh of relief.
Bucket, I think you should go in first and maybe butter up Lady Elrain a little bit. We don't have the best news, perhaps? I don't know.
Rafe
By
just
butter,
turns.
do you mean...
Rafe just turns and looks at Maeve and cocks an eyebrow and just like, what?
Oh, do you mean I should oil my
Yes.
joints so that I can grease my lady?
Yes.
And he kind of chuckles at his own humor.
I mean, do whatever you gotta do, man. It's all you.
At this point, you all have noticed, in particularly Rafe, have noticed that the humming has stopped.
Nice.
And the door is just a little bit further open, and you see the silhouette of Lady Elrain's face, just cocked to the side, kind of looking confusedly into the hallway at all of you. Whilst she's not wearing the same, beautifully resplendent, headdress and such that she was wearing the previous night, you do see that she has donned her makeup for the day, and she has a very faint bit of cloth kind of covering the upper portions of her face, still able to see perfectly clearly as it's extremely thin, but a light veil nonetheless across her eyes, and she just has a bit of a smirk of merriment upon her face as she opens the door fully and disappears into the room, and just you hear faintly from inside, "Come in, come in."
Maeve pushes Bucket to the front of the to the front of the group.
And like as Bucket is pushed forward, he like somehow turns it into a smooth motion and makes it look intentional. And he like leans into the doorway and he says, "Oh, my lady, I have been dreaming of what you might look like when my eyes feasted upon you again, and you are more beautiful than I ever could have imagined." And then he like dramatically comes to her feet and like hopes that she offers a hand for him to take.
A bit of additional merriment, an obvious smile upon her face. She dramatically flourishes her hand in front of her and places it where Bucket can take it, and there is the faintest of chuckles coming from her as the rest of you make your way inside of the room.
And that's when Bucket takes it and says, "Martina, at your services, my lady." Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Oh, I do love a thespian. You have been on stage before, I assume?
I do not know the meaning of the word.
Well, that is something that we're going to have to rectify. And she like brings you up to your feet and with care and grace kind of leads you over to one of the nearby seats. And she sits down in a chair directly next to you as well. And she beckons for the rest of you to sit as she says, "So I assume that the news is important this morning, given the news that has transpired overnight."
It is as important as it is grim.
Indeed. All right then. And she kind of looks, her gaze kind of drifting along until it rests upon Maeve, and she says, "What would you like to report?"
Well, we went to investigate like you had suggested we do, and we found some oddities in the warehouse, but ended up in a room with Rugen and a second Bucket.
She looks over at Bucket and she says, "There are two of you."
There was, but you cannot copy Bucket. So there was a Bucket and a Bracket. And I suppose there is Thimble, and that Thimble flies up onto Bucket's shoulder. And they do their secret high five again.
At this point, is it not I mean, it's not secret anymore, right?
They think of it as secret, but they haven't thought about how it's public with how they do it.
Right, okay. Great. She seems a little bit confused by all of that, but kind of shakes it away, files it away for later perhaps to discuss, and looks back at Maeve.
Rugen was a formidable adversary, and we managed to escape. I had to banish him for a moment to give us time to flee. I don't know that we discovered much, although we do now have an amulet that Bucket believes is from the gnome pocket.
She looks over at Bucket.
Who produces the amulet?
Oh, I see. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this particular amulet was among the items that was stolen when you were initially arrested for your thievery on that night so many years ago, was it not?
I can neither confirm nor deny that may or may not be true, but I can say that I know what you are talking about.
Right. Well, if that's the way you wish to play it. So this Bracket individual, I assume, was there to help?
It seemed so.
It seemed to share my thirst for revenge against Rugen.
And what drives your particular thirst for this revenge against Master Rugen?
He killed my maker, and he must prepare to die.
All right then. So, did Brackett come before you?
He was in the only
No,
thing we know is
I'm
that
referring to the manufacturing. I
right.
do not know how forged or made in particular, so I assume Brackett then would be a kind of older brother? If your maker died after they made you?
Well, it was more as if Brackett was a memory of me, for his form was not made as mine was.
So this Brackett individual was not made by the same individual that made you?
No, he was made with other magics.
Interesting. Do you have any idea about the origins of this individual then? What other magics, what the source of these other magics might have been?
It seems like it was a cry for help from Pocket himself.
The gnome made Brackett then.
I cannot say for sure, but I can say that the masks are somehow fixated on our friendship.
Interesting. Do you have any theories about why that might have been?
Perhaps because Pocket is seeking freedom as we all are from this tyranny of the masks.
Alright. Well, given you know this Pocket better than anyone, I'm going to put a little bit more faith in such a hypothesis than perhaps others might, and I will make sure to include that in my report that goes out after we are done. Very interesting. We also, we received a letter in the middle of the night as well from individuals, and she kind of looks at Sai, Maeve, and Wraith, knowingly, not wanting to give away too much, perhaps, in Bucket's presence. And she goes over to her makeup table and produces a rolled up scroll and goes over and hands it to Maeve. This came, I've already read it, of course, but you should enlighten your companions as to the contents of it, as I think it is quite important.
I will open the scroll, and it says, "To all operatum, I must bring to your immediate attention an incident of grave concern that transpired within the walls of the Luminous Forge, the esteemed institution located in the Holy Brunat Empire. A highly guarded artifact known as the Solar Ion Crystal has been stolen by an entity referred to in our preliminary reports as the Masked Individual. The manner of theft is highly alarming. The masked individual exhibited an uncanny knowledge of the monastery's defenses and bypassed several layers of arcane protection with apparent ease. The artifact's location, guarded so closely that only a select few were ever allowed near it, seemed to present no obstacle to this thief. Our agency, along with other concerned authorities, are continuing to investigate the significance of the stolen artifact. We are probing the potential uses of the Solar Ion Crystal, its historical importance, and the potential consequences of it falling into the wrong hands. I'm writing to ensure that all operatum within our network are kept abreast of the ongoing situation. Please continue your investigations to uncover the active threat that this individual represents. Your insights, findings, and diligence are invaluable in this matter, and I urge you to remain vigilant. The masked individual has shown to be highly skilled, elusive, and likely to have complex motives. This situation transcends a mere act of theft, and we must uncover the greater scheme at play. Yours in service, the Privileging Council.
As you finish the letter, you hear a voice from the doorway. A woman stands in it. She herself is obviously someone of importance. Her half-elven heritage is evident in her delicate features, and though you can see the faintest of tips of her pointed ears through her slightly tousled hair, there is a distinct weariness, perhaps, in her demeanor, like perhaps she hasn't slept well that evening, but her eyes are sharp and intelligent nonetheless. Streaks of gray run through her chestnut-colored hair, and she has a keen intelligence in her look. Though she is perhaps not quite in her twilight years, you can tell that she has lived a not only practical life, but also carries herself with a measure of elegance and grace. Upon looking at her a little bit closer, what you might have initially thought to be black nail polish instead reveals itself to be ink stains upon her fingertips, perhaps from decades spent meticulously working with ink and quill. And as she clears her throat, you hear her say, "Did you call the solar ion crystal in that statement?" And as she says this and everybody's attention kind of diverts to her, you see Lady Ilrain stand and with a broad smile and arms open wide, you hear her say, "Lady Seraphine, please come in." And she goes and like takes Seraphine's hand and turns to the rest of the room, and you hear her say, "Everyone, this is Lady Seraphina Atezi. She is a visiting scholar from the Eternity Archive, and it is a great boon to us in this present moment that she was willing and able to come and assist us with some of this." And she just kind of brings Seraphina into the room. Seraphina just kind of nods. Go ahead and give me insight checks, Maeve and Sai, please.
You got this.
23.
16.
Okay. With the 23, I will say that you, well, I'll start with the 16. Deb, you definitely get the understanding that these two women know each other very well and have likely worked together before in the past. And I would say, Sai, you can further that assumption by believing that their friendship probably extends into the affairs of the initiative as well. Certainly you expect that Lady Ilrain knew that Seraphina would be joining the conversation at some point, even though she might have been a little bit surprised about the moment at which it happened. And as she comes into the room and does that introduction of Seraphina, Lady Ilrain, Seraphina kind of interrupts Lady Ilrain, and she says, yes, that's all well and good. You said the solar ion crystal, and she's looking at Maeve when she says this.
Yes, that's what it says in here. It's been stolen.
That's troublesome. I'm assuming that none of you know what the solar ion crystal is. And
Oh.
Lady O'Rain just smiles and nods, and she says, "You know very well that we do not." And she just kind of takes a seat, and she kind of leans a little bit closer to Bucket as she takes her seat. And Seraphine just kind of rolls her eyes a little bit. And then there is a sigh and a smile. You get the sense that she is perhaps a teacher and has had to instruct people many times before in her life. And she kind of clasps her hands before her, and she says, "The solar ion crystal is millennia old. It's an artifact that was crafted an unknown age ago by unknown arcanists in the far distant past. For all of known recorded history, it has found its home in the Luminous Forge. It's a monastery in the Brunat Empire, and this sacred place is dedicated to Vitharion, the ascendant of Forge and Light, who has espoused within all of those that walk the halls of the Forge to illuminate the world with their creations. The monks and arcanists of the Forge have used this crystal to both protect the monastery and to empower the various machinations of arcanism that they create in homage to Vitharion. The crystal itself is seemingly infused with the essence of both of our suns, and its radiant energy has been a beacon of the faith and the creativity of all those within the Luminous Forge. Its existence, of course, has never particularly been secret, but access to the solar ion crystal has been closely guarded within the Luminous Forge, and only a very select handful of trusted individuals who have proven in their devotion to Vitharion have ever even been permitted to get close enough to touch the mystical relic. Its symbolism is, well, it's incalculable. The fact that it has been stolen is most concerning. And as she kind of gets quiet, you hear Lady O'Rain speak up and say, "I think we all know that." I asked Seraphine to join us so that she might illuminate us perhaps a little bit on this Ori that you had uncovered in your investigations at the Cogsworn Collective. And, well, Seraphine, putting aside the crystals for now, what have you discovered? And Seraphine just kind of shakes her head for a moment and comes out of it. And yes, of course. Chronometratone is not just an Ori. It holds a potential that goes far beyond mere representation of celestial mechanics. This device, based on the knowledge that you have uncovered from your investigations at the Cogsworn Collective, it seems to be designed to affect the perception of time by those that use it. It seems to allow a person to view the many layers of the fabric of time, giving glimpses into hidden possibilities, which, of course, is a power that should be handled with great caution. In the wrong hands, the consequences of knowing future possibilities of virtually any action are, well, unimaginable what such consequences would wreak. Lady O'Rain just kind of stays quiet and lets that somberness nestle over the room.
Thank you for bringing this cheerful news. We are very happy to hear this.
Lady O'Rain just kind of chuckles for a little bit, and Wraith gets a faint smile at the corner of his lips. Seraphine does not, perhaps, smile, but she does acknowledge the moment of levity nonetheless.
What does that mean for all that we're trying to do here?
Lady O'Rain just kind of quirks her head towards you and says, I'm not sure. I think that all depends on what motivations this Pocket seems to have for these devices that he has stolen. Bucket, you know Pocket better than the rest of us. Does this news ring of any particular meaning for you?
I'm not sure what could be done with this fancy stone and this augury if they were put together.
As you say that, Seraphine just kind of paces back and forth a little bit. She goes into a small pouch at her side and she pulls out a few scrolls that are much larger than the pouch itself, implicating, obvious magic within the pouch. And she starts shuffling through a few of the scrolls, and you see that she is very much lost in thought for several moments, trying to contemplate what it is that she just said. Lady O'Rain just...
I was just going to say, under his breath, he turns to Sai and says, I didn't realize that would be such a serious question.
Sai doesn't say anything, just sort of does a wince and a nod.
Lady O'Rain kind of leans over towards Bucket and she says, you should never be afraid of asking a serious question.
Be careful what you wish for, right, dear?
Oh. I wish for many, many things. And she just kind of winks at Bucket.
And at that, Bucket winks and says, wishes can come true, my dear.
There is a moment more levity from that exchange before Seraphine just kind of rolls up one of rolls up the scrolls that she is holding in her hands and crumples them, her kind of hands clenched very tightly around them, and she just seems to almost be in pain for a moment as she turns to the rest of you and says, combination of this chronometratone and the solar arm crystal, it is, I think, devastating in news. If I'm understanding both of these artifacts well enough, and I believe that I am, the combination will transcend the limitations of mere observation of time. If this individual is as strong as you say they are, and they can fuse the raw energy of our binary stars with the delicate mechanisms of the chronometratone, it could create a bridge between potentiality and reality. This union would not only grant the power to peer into and through the very many layers of time, but potentially could alter the very fabric of its course. It could enable the wielder to see the threads and pull at those threads weaving potentially new paths, or unraveling existing ones. The ethical implications, not to mention the dangers of such convergence, are deeply unsettling. Lady O'Rain
And
just
that-
kind of... Go ahead.
You can go. Well, I was just gonna say, Bucket turns to kind of Ilrain and the other lady and says, "Yes, and so you have the professionals that will be coming in to deal with that, right? There's somebody else that knows more than we do. They'll take care of it."
Lady O'Rain just kind of looks at you and says, "Well, right now, I think that those of us in this room possess more knowledge than anyone else outside of it about this particular circumstance. But I will rectify that. I will send some missives immediately, and perhaps we can get some news. But I don't know what anyone else is going to decide in this particular matter. No one else knows this pocket as well as you do, Bucket. So until we have an understanding of what their intentions are and if there's anything that they are doing actively to facilitate these objects coming together, I'm not sure any decisions can be made about who might be best suited. You handle it."
And just under his breath, some people may hear Bucket say, "Inconceivable."
Glorious. Lady O'Rain kind of moves over to her makeup table, and you see her go into a pouch that she has just in one of the drawers of the table itself, and from that pouch she retrieves a piece of blank parchment, and she immediately starts penning a letter.
I am standing right here. You do not need to write the letter to me right now. You could say it to me.
Soft chuckle escapes her lips as she continues writing, and she says, "It's not for you, Bucket. You would know very clearly if I was writing a letter for you, as there would be perfume attached to it first."
And at that, he can clutch his chest and smell the air, I dream of receiving these letters.
You can see that Sai is rather confused, given all of this new information, and then also...
Oh, I thought you were confused about Bucket and Lady O'Rain.
Oh, no. How could one be confused about it? It's very
Okay.
clear what's going on.
We don't know how experienced Sai is in matters of love.
Or
It's
was
true,
it that
that is true.
Bucket was trying to smell?
Especially since Bucket probably doesn't have much of a sense of smell. Because he can't breathe, technically.
That's true. I mean, the thought is there.
Right.
I think, yeah, Sai would just kind of chuckle along with your, banter, but kind of not really paying attention to it fully, and just, Bucket, what would Pocket do with the entire fabric of time? Just go back to before this all happened, or is there more to it?
It depends on if we are talking about my friend Pocket or the man in the mask. They do not
That's a
seem
good
to
point.
want the same thing.
Can you be so sure of that at this point?
We're talking about magic masks that I stole 5 years ago and I haven't seen since. Can we be sure of anything right now?
Doesn't feel like it.
It seems that the amulet is perhaps our indication that Bucket's friend Pocket is not entirely gone. That perhaps Pocket is trying to fight against the masked individual.
Bucket, your other friends that ended up with the masks, I mean, has there been any indication that they've been fighting it too? Do you know anything?
I have not seen or heard of any of my friends until you all came to me in the cell. So, what you know, I know, and I only know of Bucket. I can say that the masks did seem to know one another, so perhaps they are together.
I wonder if they're
Seraphine.
fighting it too.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Do you think that they would also fight against it? Or did they seem like, I don't know, ruthlessly ambitious, perhaps?
Well, Pinch, it would depend on how well fed they are. And I'm not sure about the motivations of the other one because they had a lot more emotions, and at the time I could not process emotions like I can now.
I'm
Seraphine
just trying to get a
speaks up
sense of what
and
we're up against.
Seraphine speaks up and she says, "What masks are you referring to, if you don't mind my asking?"
And
Oh, you
then
man.
and Bucket regales her with the grand tale of plotting to steal the masks and the theft and the events that followed, and meeting up with these 3 companions from the initiative and joining this mission. And through it all you can tell that whereas before Bucket's motivations in this mission were more questionable, they have solidified more as they've gone through this quest and connected with Rugen. So towards the end, he just says, "And so there is more to explore with Rugen."
I fail to see how this Rugen individual might be connected to the masks. I'm curious, these masks, as you have described them, they were a trio, and you indicated that they were possessing of intelligence?
Intelligence, life, a mask in of itself. I could not say what it was, but it was not my friends once they put on the mask.
I see. I am reminded, one of the reasons that Lady Lorraine asked me to look into this and provide some of my expertise is that I have been studying artifacts of ancient times for many, many decades at this point. The masks that you speak of are known in history. Sort of. It is conjecture at the best. There are differing accounts of certain events that have transpired over the millennia. But a particular trio that have been referred to as the Masks of Lost Princes is very fitting of what you describe. And if you are saying that these masks have returned to the realm, to the world, well, it could mean something disastrous is happening, as their appearance in history often coincides with some calamitous event or other.
By calamitous, do you mean like the merging of these two magic devices, that kind of calamity?
Certainly fits the realm of possibilities.
How do we know that time hasn't already been manipulated?
Very good question. I would expect that the events tied to the circumstances by which we know of the potential manipulation would be obfuscated in any new reality that emerges from the use of such objects. But, that said, I am not a thief of time. So I don't know how such things might work. That is merely my educated assumption.
Can Bucket do an insight check on her for that to see if like he
Sure.
thinks that's true?
Sure. What'd you get?
I got nothing because it's a 5.
I would say that in this particular circumstance, Bucket's perception might be a little bit clouded by the realization that Seraphine and Lady Ilrain have some kind of relationship that he can't quite put his finger on. And there might be a little bit of jealousy kind of creeping into his mind about this. But as, Bucket is contemplating Seraphine's circumstances and all of this, she says, unless we can get some kind of an insight into what events this pocket seems to want to transpire, I'm afraid we're all going to be making educational assumptions before anything else.
Well, I might be able to help with that. Is that the most important question that we have? What does
she just
Pocket
kind
plan
of
to do?
looks to everyone else in the room. Lady Ilrain puts down her pen and turns back towards you, and everyone is kind of looking at you quizzically. You hear her say, "Are there any other questions that need answering, sir?"
Well, there are a lot of questions that need answering. I can always, I guess, call on Nocturnus for a bit of help. But I'm not sure what kind of response we'll get. It doesn't hurt to try. I mean, is that
Wraith
the
kind of
best question?
Wraith kind of just sits up in his seat and looks at you and says, "Is that ascendant stuff you're doing?"
Yeah, pretty much.
Ah, fuck. And he just kind of crosses his arms and leans back again.
You won't be rolling your eyes at this if it works. So let's just
Did
see.
you see
He
her
rolls his
fly on
eyes.
magic stairs?
He just rolls his eyes.
Okay.
Seraphine is kind of fascinated by what you're saying, and she just kind of leans a little bit towards you, and she says, "You have that kind of connection with Nocturnus?"
Yes, most of the time.
It's very interesting. I've never actually met a Night Warden, or at least spoken to one. I know of a few funeral ceremonies in which I have seen one, but you are the first that I have ever greeted.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, and I hope I am a positive representation.
Well, certainly if you can answer a question such as what potentially time and reality altering events might transpire in the near future, then I certainly will welcome this greeting.
I suppose let's get down to it then. And Sai sort of like steps aside a little bit, so there's a little bit of space.
So just for my clarification, what are
Yeah.
you doing in the moment? Like GM to
Oh,
player.
I'm casting divination.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
So Sai gives himself a little space, and
Yeah, so what does your divination spell look like as you enact this?
yeah. So Sai begins to. You think they might be praying. It kind of appears a bit more casual. There's not like kneeling and wailing and all of the things. It's rather quiet. And as they start to pray, there is just sort of a mild sense of calm that permeates this space. And you see that the lights in the room individually start to flicker and then burn out entirely. And the space becomes dark, but it's a comforting sort of darkness. It's not, frightening dark, but just peaceful. And out of nowhere in this darkness, a soft glow starts to appear in this room, not from any one particular place, but suddenly things are alight with a sort of silvery blue, and you can see in this room, if you were to look up, that the ceiling that you had seen previously starts to fade and dissolve away, and you see what looks like the night sky. There are stars above, and they are twinkling and shimmering, and you can see constellations, and it feels a bit otherworldly. And as this connection continues to happen, those stars sort of fall gently around you until it almost feels like you're rising up to meet them. And Sai stands there, a very relaxed posture, but their eyes are kind of scrunched in effort. And you can feel at that time that they're just, it feels like there's more in this space. And you can feel their connection to Nocturnus. And Sai will just sort of very quietly and kind of reverently ask, Nocturnus, what is it that Pocket intends to do with this newfound ability to manipulate time?
So as Sai invokes this spell, creates this connection with Nocturnus, for what it's worth for the rest of you, in this moment after you kind of perceive everything invoking with the night sky and the twinkling starlight almost seeming to fall from the ceiling itself that kind of envelops the room, time stops basically for everyone except for Sai. Nocturnus, being the ascendant of death and twilight, manifests as a majestic ursine being. They are massively larger than any earthly bear, and they emanate a faint moonlit glow that pierces all darkness around them. But their fur is almost cosmic. It's enigmatic and deep black, speckled with twinkling stars, as if their very body was made of the night sky. And it brings kind of a serene quality to the grandeur of their appearance as their eyes glimmer with faint luminescence, as if the moon itself was casting a calming light from them. Their demeanor, much in the same way as Sai was just presenting the invocation of their spell, is calm and neutral, perhaps even slightly emotionally detached. It almost seems to reflect everything about their persona, this equanimity that is apparent even in this particularly dire circumstance of trying to know what this future portends. As Sai has done this spell maybe a handful of times before, he has never felt this strong of a connection to Nocturnus. And as Sai unclenches their eyes and looks up at the night sky, expecting to hear Nocturnus' voice, they instead see Nocturnus simply floating in the space above them. It's very obviously a representation of them, because the real Nocturnus is like physically larger than this room, and this appearance floating above them is apparent to them as a manifestation of Nocturnus themselves. And Sai gazes up at Nocturnus, hearing the echoes of their question kind of resonating in the room itself. They are immediately overcome by this close connection that they have with this ascendant, the closest they've probably ever been to Nocturnus. And there is a pause as Sai is almost expectantly waiting for whatever Nocturnus is there to say. And before they can even understand what the presence of Nocturnus in this moment even means, they hear the voice of Nocturnus encompassing everything in and around them. It bites into their very soul, and they feel almost crushed by the power in the words that Nocturnus speaks.
Child of twilight, heed my words, and peer into the shadows that creep beneath the surface. Masked one journeys into the abyss, drawn to the sunken echoes of an ancient kingdom's throne. Can you sense the pull of the forgotten chambers where memories lie entombed? History's whispers linger. The temple of the remembered stirs. Place where time's fabric once unraveled and set a course anew. Trespasser seeks to unwind that weave, to delve into the event that shattered the great kingdom and created a sea. His touch is a ripple that threatens to become chaos. Ponder the sea's existence, child. Its waters were born from choices made and paths taken. Should they be undone, the sea itself may cease to be, and with it all that has flourished and decayed over the passing of ages. The masked one's designs are shadow upon creation. The danger as profound and elusive as the night. Within the folds of destiny, connections stretch across time, binding souls and objects in intricate webs. A medallion, once close to the heart of the masked one, now resonates with a presence from his past life. An enduring bond to a friend who once was, a link to memories long hidden. To the Grove Walker, steward of nature and seer of hidden trails, let the medallion serve as a beacon. Through the echoes of friendship and the resonant bond to the masked one's past, she may enhance her magical gaze, peering through the tangled paths, for his footsteps are shrouded in mist, and uncover the trail that he walks. Move swiftly, child of twilight, for the night's silence whispers of urgency. Seek understanding, but guard against the chaos that may ensue should the masked one's designs come to fruition. In all of your hands, the threats of fate lie entwined.
And he just kind of drifts up into the sky, and all at once the spell ceases. And that's where we're going to take our break, ladies and gentlemen. We are at our halfway point.
Whew.
We are going to be back very soon, I promise you. We're just going to take a short, brief break, unwrestle our bones from the seats in which we have sat too long. Please come back and join us here shortly. If you are watching us live, we will try to keep it to as few minutes as we possibly can, and if you're watching us on VOD, it's going to be a matter of seconds, and we'll see you back in mere moments. But for the rest of you, look forward to telling the rest of what this magical divination has potentially revealed. Bye for now, everyone. And hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Hey.
We managed to survive our breaks. I, myself, am much thankful that we get to take those breaks because my old butt can't sit here in this chair like that for hours and hours on end without standing up and moving around and all of that sort of thing. It's the hips. I'm sure there's a few watchers of this show that are old like me that can appreciate such things. But all of these lovely ladies that I am with, you all have a while yet to learn about those types of experiences. And I hope that you don't have them like I do. Nonetheless, we are back and hoping once again to jump right back in. Our intrepid group of adventurers have just had a experience, I will say, with Sai's worshipped ascendant Nocturnus, and let's see what they get up to in the aftermath of such things. So, jumping right back in, the vision of Nocturnus fades from Sai. The spell finishes. Sai having been given the answers that they seek. For the rest of you that were in the room, your concept of time was paused during that experience. You don't really understand everything that happened, but you do remember hearing a voice, a deep and resonating voice that was one of power and authority. And Maeve probably has the best understanding of that experience, knowing that it was Nocturnus kind of responding to the power of the magic and understanding the question and the answer and all of that sort of thing. But in this moment, I think she is a little bit distracted, and Bucket as well, as once your perception of things comes back to the present, and everything has kind of faded. Oh no, we lost Beth. Ruh-roh. Hopefully they come back. Your perception of the experience has, like, returned to normal and such. You find that Pocket, your core is changed. You can feel a presence now in your power core at your chest. The slight illumination that it normally gives off is, hey, welcome back, Beth. The power core itself seems to be altered now, and as you look down at the power core, you see the amulet kind of fused on top of your power core, and your tunic has been like separated around it so that the light of the power core kind of washes around the outer edges of the amulet itself. And if you reach up a hand and touch it, you can feel that it isn't just like floating there or magic, like, holding it there or something like that. It seems to be entirely fused to your core. And Maeve, you have an understanding that your magical power has been altered. You previously had the Blight spell prepared. That spell is no longer prepared, and you instead have Locate Creature prepared. Seemingly without your will or understanding of how such things can happen. How does Sai react after coming out of this spell and their experience with Nocturnus?
So Sai, generally speaking, Sai is very measured in their reactions and responses, and it's no exception here. They, while before, when initiating this, they were standing peacefully, but clearly concentrating hard. As the spell ends, their posture remains the same. They look perhaps even a bit lighter, but the look on their face is just incredibly peaceful. Eyes closed, a small smile on their face, and when they open their eyes, it's sort of like a kind of coming back to reality moment, and you can kind of see a little bit of a twinkle of tears in their eyes. But they will look to their friends. I'm not sure if you all heard that as well, but I think we got some good information.
Lady Orain is kind of just sitting off to the side, just her eyes wide in shock and awe to a degree, and she seems to be just kind of taking everything in. Seraphina, on the other hand, is looking upon you with nothing but admiration in her expression, and she is also equally taken aback by the experience and seems to be at a bit of a loss for words. Wraith is still seated. He's got this expression upon his face of, what the fuck was that? And is just kind of looking at Maeve for some kind of an, back and forth between Maeve and Sai for some kind of an explanation.
I mean, that was an especially powerful connection. It doesn't always go like this.
It doesn't always fuse things onto other people's bodies, no?
You all notice the amulet bound to to Pocket's core at this moment.
I can say with certainty I've never seen that happen before. Wow.
It was particularly powerful, but Wraith, I do believe you were warned ahead of time that something would happen.
Yeah, but what the fuck was that?
That was an ascendant.
Fuck
it
me.
was the information that we needed. And Sai
Was it?
will...
I don't know. What the fuck was he
Yeah.
even saying?
Sai will then kind of go into just like a retelling of what Nocturnus had said. And it's actually like fairly accurate, as this is these are words that leave a very deep impression, so they're not easy to forget. So they're able to pretty easily relay all that to them.
I'm waiting. Go ahead. Recite it. Word for word. I'm kidding. You don't need to do Yeah, but what the fuck does that all mean?
Well,
It means we need to hurry.
I think it means that someone's going to play with magic. Yes?
It sounds like it, and it did confirm that doing so would be entirely catastrophic. I know that we need to find Pocket now more than ever, not only for his sake, but I guess everyone's now.
Yes, the chaos is rising and we must watch for the sea. Did you get that part about the sea? I don't get the sea, I admit it.
Miko, what
Yes.
would that portion of what Nocturnus said have elicited as far as, an awareness of what's going on?
Sure. Let's do let's have all three of you make insight checks to see if you can get to kind of peer through a little bit of the hints that were dropped in that statement.
That's a 9 for me. I think Sai was a little overcome.
Oh, it's Nocturnus. What are you saying?
I'm your biggest fan.
I actually got an 18, which I'm okay with.
Nice.
And I rolled a natural 20 for a 27.
Fuck yeah. Awesome. So yeah, Sai is very much still kind of processing the closest connection that they have ever had with Nocturnus before. And so they are perhaps a little bit slow in kind of rationalizing and understanding the words, because like anytime that you've ever heard and gotten responses from Nocturnus, it's always been shrouded in mystery, right? But it's never been this powerful. So like I think the power of it is kind of causing Sai a little bit of hesitation and such. Bucket, in asking the question themselves, is kind of like processing in their own mind what, like, certainly the sea has to mean the Sea of Intrescil, right? And a mention of sunken echoes and ancient kingdoms has to have something to do with the country that was, the civilization that was destroyed when the Sea of Intrescil was made and sunk to the bottom of the sea, right? And then for Maeve, kind of along with all of that, she has a distinct sense that his mention of the trespasser and unwinding the weave that led to the events that basically shattered in Treskel, kind of undoing that and causing the sea itself, the creation of the sea itself, to be undone. It feels like that Nocturnus is suggesting Pocket is trying, or the masked version of Pocket is trying to undo the Illuvance. And
Oh, is that all?
and what that might mean, it's hard to say what that might mean for the Sea of Intrescil and, you know, Greater Intrescil and all of the countries that make up Greater Intrescil that have emerged since the Illuvance. Does that mean that all of that is going to be undone as well? That's the question. Like, what happens to all of the lives that have lived since the Illuvance? In the almost 1,000 years since, what would undoing the greatest catastrophe to ever happen upon Ysterra mean? So how does Maeve present that hypothesis to everyone, as she's the only one that kind of recollects and understands that premise?
Well, friends, I think we have a bigger task before us than we had thought. I think what Nocturnus was saying is that Pocket, or the one in the mask, is trying to undo the Illuvance.
The Illuvance, you mean the thing in the textbooks that we talk about all the time because it's so important? That Illuvance?
Yes, that Illuvance, indeed.
How could...
Sorry, Pocket's viewpoint on the world's fucking amazing.
How would one even... I mean, there are too many variables. How could they even know what's going to happen? Why would they want that?
Yeah, Pocket is not that smart to want that.
Well, Seraphine told us that the masks throughout history have coincided with calamitous events. So a positive outcome for the world isn't necessarily at the top of their priorities.
But why? I don't understand why they would want this. I don't know.
I mean, if you live in the town before it gets destroyed, you might want that town. Are they that old?
At the mention of that, Seraphine just kind of shakes herself out of the craziness of the experience with Nocturnus and this talk of undoing the Illuvance, and holds her hand to her head, and she says, I mean, yes, they date potentially even further back than Crystal. So, from eons untold. At least that's what the hypothesis is. At the Eternity Archive, we have created some theories that they were involved in some kind of great reckoning, or some kind of potential event that went on with the Ascendant, but unfortunately in that circumstance, the Ascendant are not very open to telling of the world's history. Even our praxis gods some such events that are of celestial natures. So they are that old. And older. Much older. Can't even rationalize or contemplate what would happen to everything around us if the Illuvance was undone. And she just kind of moves over to a chair, and she just kind of sits, and she seems like shaken to her very core.
Okay, so we do something?
Yeah. I mean, we have to find Pocket first, but...
Bucket, you asked me before if I could possibly find him. I think, thanks to Nocturnus, I might be able to now.
Is it because I am Iron Man?
Yes.
They always add something to me. My arm changes, my chest changes. I feel like I'm becoming a super forged.
Well, I guess, I don't even know what steps to take beyond just figuring out where Pocket is and then going after him. At this point.
Let me try to see what happens if I cast the spell. And I will cast Locate Creature.
Okay. So this is a spell that is not unknown to you, right? It's a spell that Maeve has probably had to use on occasion before when tracking down someone or finding someone that was lost and in the grove, and maybe even a few times in her time at the initiative she's had to use this spell, and she knows inherently that the magic of it only extends a short distance, relatively speaking. Like 1,000 feet is the normal range of the spell, right? But she also, given that natural 20, understands that this was blessed in some way by Nocturnus, right? Basically, like Nocturnus handing Maeve the tool to respond to the question that was asked of them, right? And so she goes over and places a hand upon Bucket's core, where coming in contact with the amulet. And as she invokes the spell, normally it is a very simple thing. You just kind of get this sense of directionality to the intended target. But this time it is much different. It's much more than just directionality that she senses. Her perception of the space around her is almost instantaneously altered. Her vision clouds and moves with rapidity as if she flies out of the room itself, moving through the walls and space of the city of Amana, flying out across the Sea of Intrescil, and then diving underneath of the ocean waves themselves and soaring through the water, through this darkness of the water, unable to really see what's ahead of her other than a pinpoint of light in the distance ahead. And with speed by which she has could never have been able to fathom, she dives deep into the very fathoms of the sea until she sees the light expand. And as it expands, what comes into view is a sunken city beneath, at the very bottom of the Sea of Intrescil. She has somehow an understanding that it is only a few days' voyage by sea across the Sea of Intrescil itself. It would require some measure of magic and or artifice to reach the depths such as this. But there it is, a city beneath the waves, down at the very, very deepest portions of the Sea of Intrescil itself. She doesn't know what city she looks at, but the beacon is there. And she knows that Pocket is there too. And then all at once, she blinks and she's back in the room. Roll a Constitution saving throw for me.
Another natural 20 for a 23.
With perfect stoicism, she comes back. She is dazed by the circumstance, but she immediately, with a powerfully stalwart constitution, prevents herself from being phased overly much physically by what she has just endured. And as her vision comes into focus, she maybe blinks and opens her eyes wide a few times as she comes into the perception of what is around her once again. For the rest of you, that was only a few moments where she invoked the spell and closed her eyes, but you do see the magic of it. She still has a beacon, by the way, a sense of direction at this very moment. She knows she will for the next 10 minutes or so, to where Pocket is.
She looks at Wraith right away and just says,
The fuck did I do? I didn't do it.
I have some bad news, friend.
Oh.
He's in the sea.
To be the ocean. He just kind of like puts his hand to his mouth and like suppresses the urge to vomit. Just thinking about it.
There, my friend. This is what will make you a true warrior.
No, that's not how any of this fucking works.
You just have to fight what you'd want to fight in order to not have to worry about fighting that thing again. So you fight the ocean and you win. What more could go wrong?
It's the ocean. You can't fight the fucking ocean.
You're right.
attitude.
You're learning.
I don't get it. And he just kind of puts his head in his hands and holds it there.
I guess we should go.
Does Maeve tell everyone anything
Yes.
more beyond that? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I let them know there's a sunken city that we're headed to.
I have no idea how we'll reach that place. But
Oh, that's right. You all need to breathe, don't you?
unfortunately, yes.
Generally speaking.
Lungs are so silly.
I don't know. I'm glad to have them.
You don't need them.
It's true. I do. You don't. Well, either way, we need to make a plan and get moving. Yeah. So weird. This is such a weird day.
That you see one of the people that you follow with your time and energy on the same day that I see my most hated enemy, on the same day that she gets a magic spell that allows us to find that enemy. Yeah, that might constitute a weird day.
Very much so.
Lady Orain goes to speak up as if to say something, but then just shakes it off and she says, Well, if you do have to go to beneath the waves, it's a good thing you're in the city of Amana, isn't it?
Sure.
The foremost location of delvers of the Sea of Intrescil to ever exist in the
Yes,
history of the Sea of Intrescil.
Now I'm putting it together. Thank you.
We just wanted to see if you knew.
Right. I'm sure that's exactly what you were thinking.
And then he gives her a big wink.
Did you have something else you wanted to say, Deb? You look like I cut you off.
Yes.
Okay.
Lady, there is one thing that we neglected from our earlier report. When we encountered Rugen, it seemed he also knew of us and perhaps the initiative. So maybe that's something that you can look into while we are tracking down the gnome.
Indeed. I think it might be best if I do include a little bit more information about Master Rugen and this coil in the report. Is there anything additionally that you wish to tell me, Bucket? That I should, of course, include in the report.
Yeah, and at that, with the prompt of what is there to say about the coil in a report kind of line of questioning, there's a sense of disconnect as Bucket steps back into that kind of robotic tone, and he relays that the coil was planted deep in the heart of Amana from a small band of thieves led by a shrewd and ambitious half-elf woman named Aspis Wormrith, and born to a dexterous thief and a skilled illusionist. She was well equipped to lead this motley crew, and that allowed her to create the coil with a successful line of criminal work. And that was what she passed on to Rugen, her grandson, and he elevated the coil to a position of power it had never before seen. And from smuggling to political corruption, they work with brutal efficiency and cunning subtlety whenever advantageous, but true to the name, tightening its grip and striking when it's least expected. And as he kind of snaps out of that relay, he's kind of, yeah, you know, they do sketchy things in sketchy places with sketchy people.
I shall certainly include all of that in my report. Although I do wish that you had perhaps told me that over dinner. But maybe we don't have time for such frivolities now, do we? Seems as though you all now are best equipped to deal with these particular circumstances. And she looks at Maeve and she says, So, Operatum, what is it that you wish to do? What shall I include in my report to those above?
We will be going in search of the masked individual and trying to prevent him from using the solar ion crystal and the Ori, and we'll try to recover those artifacts.
Wonderful. If I might make a suggestion, you are going to need some measure of assistance in heading down into the depths of the sea. We have dealt favorably before with the deep current explorers. They value coin well enough to know when to keep the sale of such objects as is required to delve a secret. So I shall pen you a letter to take, and You can request of them any objects that you see fit that will be necessary in helping you to conclude your mission then.
Thank you, my lady.
That is what I'm here to do. So,
And you do it so well.
oh, thank you. Is there anything else any of you would like me to include in any reports or to perhaps send to anyone else of importance to you?
No, I think the less we say, the better, given the not so secrecy of our order.
Perhaps.
And I just report that you are the most beautiful woman I have seen with these 2 orbs.
Well, I'm going to take that as a compliment despite the fact that you just got out of prison that you spent 5 years in.
You cannot plead me for noticing beauty when it is presented to me.
Indeed. And what about you, Grove Walker? Anyone of importance that I should send a notification to about anything?
I think Sai's words are wise, and secrecy is what we can do at the moment.
Well enough, then. Just give me a moment, and she turns and starts writing out seemingly some kind of a letter for someone at the Deep Current Explorers. As she does that, Wraith kind of just stands up and tries to be nonchalant, but it's kind of hard to do such things in such a, confined and cloistered space. And he just kind of walks over to her and he pulls like a small letter out of his pocket and he sets it down next to her, and he just leans over and whispers, that's addressed to who it needs to go to. Make sure it gets delivered. And then he just turns around, sees you all looking at him, and he's like, What do you want?
Nothing.
Your feelings are showing.
Nah, fuck off. And he just kind of walks out of the room. So, after a few moments, there are pleasantries exchanged between all of you and Miss Seraphine Ortezi. She, of course, seems pleased to have met all of you all and the like. And she wishes you safe journeys on this perilous and dire adventure that you are about to partake upon, and she wishes that she could assist you more, and of course, if before you leave you have any particular questions that she might be able to answer, all you have to do is reach out. And moments after that, Lady Ilrain comes produces for you a folded up piece of parchment, and she says to present this at the Deep Current Explorers headquarters, and you should have everything that you might need. What is it that you would like to do, lady?
I guess we're going swimming.
Yeah.
Let's get what we need.
Yeah, I think we're making our way downtown walking fast.
We are at that.
Nice.
It's right there.
Oh, God.
So, as you leave the Whispering Willow Performing Arts Center, and you make your way towards the docks. The dockside district is, of course, where all of the Delvers, they have their own special quadrant known as the Delvers Quarter of the dockside, and you make your way there, hoping to get everything that it is that you need. I have the question for you all. Is there anything else that you wish to... Oh, thank you, Onyx Path, for rating. Very much appreciated. We have been continuing this adventure of Ysterra Chaos Rising, where our cohorts on this journey have just learned of the pending doom that is potentially undoing the most catastrophic event in history that could invariably cause an even further catastrophe. And now it appears to be on them to fix. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
Just another Wednesday.
Right, just another Wednesday. So yes, you guys are on your way to the Deep Current Explorers to procure those things that you might need that you have no idea on how to use or what to do with in order to delve deep into the fathoms of the Sea of Intrescil. Is there anything in particular that the rest of you, above and beyond those things, would like to go shopping for, that you feel might be useful or that you would like to procure before you leave the metropolis behind?
I mean, I don't think that Sai has much money apart from, stipends. I don't know that I don't know that they would be thinking about other items needed apart from like the very specific list.
Well, you do know that the initiative supplies you with writs and such to be able to acquire things that you need that are mission critical. You just later have to justify the expenditure. There's paperwork that has to be filled out and
So
such later
boring.
on. So if there's anything in particular that you can think, now would certainly be the time to try to acquire it before you head out to sea and find yourselves in the depths of waters with no shop keep around.
Okay, fine, I'll buy things. God. It's like
I'm
shopping
just
with my
trying-
friends, and they're just like, no, you should totally get it.
I'm just making sure you got everything you need.
Uh-huh. I think I would love to find any additional healing potions or any sort of protective elements, because from what I've seen recently, my friends are very squishy, and I must protect them at all costs.
Okay. Anything else besides some healing potions that you all wish to acquire? GMs don't offer this very often.
It feels like such a loaded question. Like, well, Miko, how would you like me? I have a whole list if you want.
Do you, though?
Nintendo Switch, a GameStop gift card.
You're not my
Those
son.
little glowing stars to put on the ceiling.
You're not my son. You can settle with that right now. Otherwise, I'll start treating you like my son.
Oh,
No, seriously. Is there any nifty thing that you think you could potentially acquire here?
Can I get a ring of subtlety?
Oh.
Ooh, that's a good one. Roll a... We'll call it a persuasion check. And we'll say it's using wisdom rather than charisma in an effort to try to find the... Because you're trying to do this with expediency, right? So it's a matter of trying to find the right person that can connect you to the other person that knows the particular arcanist that might possess such an item as that.
16.
Good enough. I will say that, yes, you are going to be able to acquire the Ring of Subtlety. Beth, why don't you do a similar check, and let's see how well you do on tracking down some potions.
Okay, what roll is that?
It is a persuasion check using wisdom instead of charisma.
Ooh, okay. Wisdom. That is a 19.
Okay. Roll a d4 for me.
Is this a good D4 or a bad D4?
I don't know.
We're gonna find out. That is a 4?
Nice. You do, in fact, find 4 superior, a merchant that is able to sell you 4 superior healing potions.
Very cool. Okay. I will, yeah, I'll give 1 to each of my friends. Just keep this on you. If I can't get to you, just drink it.
Nice. Someone send a message to Ian that one has been acquired for Wraith, please. Annika, anything else on the wish list that Bucket is going to go and search for? The first time in his life that he's ever had the opportunity to, purchase something instead of stealing.
No, he visits a couple of haunts he's been to before to get some familiar wares like he normally would before a trip, but I don't know that he necessarily has anything particularly special he'd like to get.
Sure. He doesn't want to go and visit Caboodle's shop of concoctions and curiosities. Someone else wants to go and visit Caboodle's.
Miko is very excited about that prospect, so I guess because she is, we should visit Caboodle's, and maybe, I guess, can I visit Ibram and see if he's got any fun new toys for the arm?
Sure, why not? We will say that, that's potentially interesting. Why don't you go ahead and roll, we'll call this an investigation check, please.
Okay. 9. It was a horrible roll.
Yeah, that is not the greatest of rolls, but that's okay. What I will say is that you venture to the Cogsworn Collective, and as you venture your way there, you do in fact come upon Ibram, but unfortunately he doesn't have anything new to offer in the way of enhancements to the arm that he crafted that you are currently testing. You do spend a little bit of time, and this is while the other shopping and such is going on. You do spend a little bit of time with him where he kind of asks how things are going with the arm, the testing of it and the like, and if there's anything in particular that you want to talk about in regards to using the arm, or any improvements that can potentially be made to it and the like. And so you spend a decent amount of time kind of catching him up on the functionality of it and how it works and everything. And in doing so, he comments, you kind of get this sense from him that he's pretty upset, right? And you end up spending a little bit of time kind of teasing out of him slowly an effort to like what's bothering him and the like. And he starts talking about how there are some political machinations going on in the Cogsworn Collective, that the theft of the orrery and whatnot has seemed to prompt an investigation into several of the individuals that were responsible for its creation. And some people have seemingly fled Imana in response. So, unfortunately, you don't get anything new in regards to the hand, but there's potentially other things going on here at the Cogsworn that might need to be investigated at perhaps a later time, considering you have a little bit more pressing matters to attend to.
But while I'm there and we're talking, at some point, can I just ask him about what the logistics might be to turn it into a trident or a net, since we're going underwater?
Oh, well, you
Under
could
the sea?
certainly turn it into a trident. You wouldn't be able to throw it, right? But you could turn it into a trident. The net is not something that could easily be done, unfortunately. But like, you already have the capacity to turn it into a trident.
Yeah. So we talk about that, and then I like write up a little schematic, like, yeah, maybe a net. Oh.
Sure. Yeah. That's for the next iteration. He will start working on it right away. So do you then head off to Caboodle's shop of concoctions and curiosities?
Sure.
All right. Beth is like, yeah.
Caboodles.
So, as you make your way across town, I'm curious if there is anything in particular that Bucket is feeling, considering the last time he made this trip to Caboodles and what transpired whilst he was present.
I guess he just kind of goes in and is curious to see how it looks since he was here last.
I mean, he didn't blow up the place.
I know, but it was not well organized when he was here last, is a nice way to say it.
Yeah, certainly there was an amount of disarray that had taken place. So, is anyone going by chance with Bucket to Caboodles?
Sure, yeah.
All right, cool.
Do I get to flirt with a rabbit again?
Yes.
Is that in Sai's wheelhouse to flirt?
Sure.
I'd love to see
I
it.
was gonna say, I can sort of picture how that might go, and I think we should make it happen.
All right. So, journeying to Caboodle's shop of concoctions and curiosities, you find this magical emporium teeming with intrigue and charm. The shop itself is a riot of colors with light filtering through large stained glass windows that cast intricate and colorful patterns across the multitude of collections of artifice and magic that are within the shop itself. The main chamber is just a vast place of shelves that stretch upwards, high as the ceiling, filled with an unimaginable array of books and trinkets, and even the occasional weapon. There's spiral staircases on each side of the entrance of the shop that lead up to a mezzanine that is where the vast majority of these tall shelves are present. And the main floor is just filled with cases and smaller shelves and displays that emit just this cacophony of a tableau of potions and books and various objects that all seem to hum with a pulse of magical potential. And in the perhaps less crowded nooks, you can find all manner of wondrous items. We will even say that this is by chance where Maeve is able to acquire said ring, and we can even say the potions that Sai finds are acquired through here as well. But virtually every space within Caboodle's shop is just a wonder and leaves you agog at what you find. Aaron Caboodle, the proprietress of Caboodle's shop of concoctions and curiosities, is equally as enchanting as the various wares that she sells. She is a harangon of striking beauty with soft white fur that is impeccably groomed, giving her an almost ethereal aura, while her maroon eyes are warm and inviting that sparkle with a mischief that reflects some of the playfulness of the store around her. You can see her kind of moving throughout the space as she greets everyone that enters with a sunny smile and a comforting presence, making sure to assist everyone with whatever it is that they might need, with her nimble paws selecting from her showcase of items with a practiced ease based on whatever it is that her patrons might need. As she approaches all of you, you hear her soft, melodic voice greet you. Welcome to Caboodle's. I hope you very much enjoy everything that it is that we have to offer. And what is it that Lady Aaron Caboodle can offer you this fine day?
We have some business to attend to, so we actually have a bit of a list.
And she just kind of extends a paw out towards you.
Sai will first take her hand and then realize there's a list and hand a list over. I personally, I need.
She just kind of looks at the list as you're saying, and then she interrupts you and she says, "This list just has two things on it: potions and a ring."
Yep, nice and easy.
She just kind of folds it and smiles quaintly as she hands it back to Sai, and she says, "We can certainly offer such things." And she just kind of turns and leads Sai back into the shop itself, her hips just swaying to and fro, little tail bobbing, catching Sai's eye. Someone pick Sai's jaw up, please.
It's Maeve for sure.
Okay.
Sorry, so sorry.
So she leads you deeper into the shop. You spend a little bit of time asking, she asks what exactly it is that you need and such, and she easily produces some the aforementioned healing potions for you. There's a little bit of exchange between her and Maeve in regards to finding the appropriate ring. I mean, it's magic, so of course it sizes to fit easily enough. And she, turns to Bucket and she says, "I know you. You've been here before."
Yes, I had some friends that thought you were quite charming and they wanted to try and woo you, but they did not do so with success.
Well, they're not the only ones to fail in such endeavors. Everyone tries, few succeed.
So you're saying there's a chance if someone was perseverant enough, and then he kind of looks at Sai, hopefully when she's not looking, but he's not aware enough to make sure she's not looking or not.
She just chuckles
He's like,
and says, "There's always a chance."
Nothing.
Okay. But what is it that I can do for you?
I I'm wondering if you have seen a companion of mine, perhaps.
Who might that be?
And I describe Pocket and what he might look like maybe today. Things he might be interested in based on what we've seen so far.
Your description is very familiar, but no, I cannot say that I've seen anyone particularly that matches that. In recent times, anyway.
Okay, recent, yeah. Like maybe on a night you get a love letter. Never mind, never mind.
Oh, I get many such letters.
But do they come true? And then he looks again outside. Not sure if she's looking or not.
Is Sai looking?
No, they've definitely just started staring at their feet and sort of kicking little invisible dust bunnies. Just dust, not bunnies. Yeah, so there's nothing.
Right. I'm afraid that's all that I have, unless there's something you wish to acquire.
Do you have anything that might help us if we're going underwater for some time?
Oh, well, I mean, most of the delvers seem to have a monopoly on the various potions and things that help with breathing in such horrible circumstances, as she, shivers at the notion of, diving into the water.
Yes, but perhaps you have something fun and interesting.
I mean, I have many things that are fun and interesting. Out of curiosity, is Bucket wearing the armor that he already has? That he had from before, the what was it, the Mariners? I think it was the Mariners armor, right?
Yep.
Is he still wearing that?
Yeah.
So as he has that, like, it's because of the way forged work, it kind of like gets absorbed into their body and such, but parts of it are still, somewhat visible, despite the clothing and such. And she kind of just, drifts over to Bucket and, pulls his tunic out to the side just a little bit to see perhaps a little bit of his collar and such. And he says, "Oh, you're already wearing one of my special things."
This is your craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Well, it's beautifully done.
Seems like you have everything that you need then to go into the depths.
Yes, but do you have everything you need to explore the depths of love with someone who cares about you? And then again, he looks at Sai.
I admire your perseverance, Master Forged. But, and she just kind of glances in Sai's direction, and she says, "You all strike me as individuals that are perhaps set about to important tasks. And maybe you should come and see me after said tasks are done." And she just kind of like, one of her ears twitches a little bit.
We'll be back. We're going to be back.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yes, see you after hours sometime.
Maybe. And as you say that, her eyes kind of alight, and she opens them a little bit wider, and she looks at you. She goes, "Now I remember you. You were here when the craziness happened. What was that? 5 years ago, I think." You had a few other companions with you, didn't you?
I did, yes.
There was that lovely half-elven woman that was doing her very damnedest to charm the very fur off of me.
Yes.
I remember her very clearly. You
Yes, you remember her, but do you remember this person right over here? And then he points at Sai.
I mean, I've just
Fuck
met
it.
this individual.
Bucket. Oh, God.
I am very curious, though. Did your friend ever make it to the far west that they were trying to go to? She came to me some, I don't know, 6 months ago, I think it was, and, well, she tried to woo me once more, but it was a gold that spoke more than anything else. She procured several various items that I didn't think anyone was ever going to be able to afford from me.
She did now, and he's very interested. Like, tell me more. She has always had eclectic taste. What is she into these days?
Well, I don't know everything that she's into, but she wanted to go to Albrath, of all places. For some reason, people like going to the desert. Ugh. Bothers me almost as much as the water.
The desert, you say? And what was she bringing with her to the desert?
Oh, well, I don't go into great detail about such things that people purchase from me, but given the fact that she is your friend and all, I would say that she was very interested in things that are capable at undoing magic.
Right. I understand. Yes.
Good. Do say hi to her if you happen to run into her again. I'm more than happy to sell more such royalties if she has the coin.
I sure will. And you haven't seen my other companion then? Because I asked about my other friend. But what about like a young-looking, hungry person? Have you seen someone like this?
I only recall you being present with 2 of your friends. At least on that visit, I'm afraid.
Oh, that's right. They had some bad sushi that night or something like that.
That's on brand. Well, if I do happen to run into them, I will let you know. Do come back now, and she kind of glances at Sai as she says that.
Sai manages to stand up a little bit straighter and just kind of give a cool nod. And then immediately turns on their heel and starts walking out.
Awesome.
Which, as she turns, Bucket, thinking he's doing excellent wingmanship, is like, yeah, see, look at that. See the nod? Yeah.
As you all exit Caboodle's shop of concoctions and curiosities, Wraith is standing there just outside waiting for you. He says, well, that fucking took long enough. Everything
It's
all
gonna
right?
take longer next time.
What? Never mind. And he just starts walking towards the docks.
You cannot rush love, Wraith.
You were shopping for potions, not love.
I'm not shopping for love, so I was.
What? And he
wasn't
just kind of turns and
shopping
looks at Sai.
for love. It was an impulse purchase.
I don't even know what to do with that.
Just go with it. It's fine.
Got it. So he leads you all to the Dockside District, where you find the Deep Current Explorers headquarters, nestled between the docks and just bristling with all manner of nautical equipment. The place is teeming with hardened veterans of the sea and an array of seemingly ingenious inventors. There are people who have ventured. There are people here who have certainly ventured deeper into the Sea of Intrescil than any others. They are simultaneously the bravest people that you could possibly meet, and perhaps the most foolish that you could possibly meet. They seem to all be bitten with this just power of going where things are uncharted, and their hands themselves bear the various wear and scars of a life spent at sea. Upon entering the Explorer's headquarters, you are greeted with an impressive array of tools and artifacts and various magical contrivances that just adorn shelves and workbenches alike. It is a vast collection that is born of the necessity of not only survival, but also exploration, that is all tailored and geared towards delving into the unknown depths of the Sea of Intrescil. There are guides, there are outfitters, there are enchanters. They all kind of move about the space in this seemingly ballet of chaos. There are dozens of other people besides yourselves that are hustling to try and get whatever it is that they might need for some adventure down beneath the waves of the sea. You get the sense that a good number of them are fresh to the experience and perhaps off to seek adventure of their own and make names for themselves, and hoping that they can garner the unique expertise that the Deep Current Explorers offer. You end up meeting with the captain of the Explorers, a very weathered individual themselves, a human man, well into his 50s, maybe even his early 60s at this point. He is missing his hand and forearm from his right arm, and doesn't have, it's just a nub cut off basically at the elbow, and though it's very obvious to even gazing upon him, he doesn't seem to let it faze him in the slightest. And as you open discussions with him, he is able to assess not only your intent and resolve about what it is that you are doing, but he also seems to, looking upon the letter, he seems to understand that you're looking for the best possible equipment that you can get for such an experience. You don't go into details, of course, about what your experience is intended to be, as such details are only for the most important people to know, and he doesn't really ask much more question than he needs in order to help outfit you accordingly. He is able to procure for you leather suits that seem to be enchanted to withstand the crushing pressures of the deep water itself. There are crystalline lanterns that glow ever so faintly in this daylight, but he assures you that once you plunge them into the depths of the water, they will manifest their glow as bright as possible. He warns, of course, that the ethereal light that they give off can potentially catch the attention of sea creatures that you might not want attention of. So be mindful of your surroundings and shield the light down where you can, so as not to draw too much undue attention. Along with all of this, there comes potions for underwater water breathing, and he even produces a few charms that are intended to ward off some of the smaller lurking predators. But he warns you, of course, that these won't work against the most powerful of such creatures, and that your best bet is to use the darkness of the sea itself to guide you. There are maps and such of small areas of the undersea terrain, but you can tell very clearly that the vast majority of the Sea of Intrescil has not been mapped out in any way of significance. Almost as if, it might be hard to get cartographers to want to go down into the depths of the sea and explore such dangers. But the entire process that you go through is a blend, or you witness rather this almost blend of invention, art, and magic that seems to be born out of necessity, as each piece of gear is meticulously adjusted to fit your bodies and needs in the experience. And as the captain hands you the last of all of this equipment, they lock eyes with each of you, drifting back and forth amongst you before imparting perhaps a warning or a blessing. It's kind of hard to tell which, as he says, "See if Intrescil does not give up her secrets lightly. Respect her. Fear her. And she just might let you return." And as their words kind of linger in your ears and you thank them, heading out the door, once outside, you, at least for most of you anyway, perhaps Wraith excluded from this, most of you feel this almost calling of the sea, a siren song, if you will, of the potential danger and discovery that awaits you. You take up all of your newfound equipment. You head down the docks, the hustle and bustle of everything weighing heavily upon you. You venture up upon the Siren Scribe, your vessel intended to take you afar. The captain, of course, has been waiting your command, and you instruct him to head west in this notion of the direction that you need to go. Maeve certainly will need to do the spell perhaps one more time to get definitive direction needed, but for now, she has an understanding of where the ship needs to lead. And as you venture out across the sea, you find yourselves captivated by the suns in the sky, the waves gently bashing themselves against the hull of the ship, the breeze itself seeming to alight your path and lead you on. And that, ladies, is where we are going to call it for this evening. Thank you so much for being
Ray
here.
Throws up.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's definitely happening.
Yeah. Off the back of the boat.
Yeah. We're all looking at sunset, and just behind us is.
Indeed. But yes, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this fine evening. We are going to do a little bit of outros here, giving all of these fine people an opportunity to tell us about themselves and all of the glorious things that they are doing on these fine internets in this wonderful space of joy that we call the TTRPG verse. And we will once again begin with the one, the only, the sick. Thank you so much for hanging through with us, Beth Mazco, toughing it out like the awesome person that she is.
Hi, everyone. I'm Beth, and tonight, as always, I've been playing Sai, the just utter disaster when it comes to flirting, but obviously kind of kick-ass cleric, hard to say.
10 out of 10 would cleric again.
Yeah, for sure. I am going to be tomorrow night on the Guild Superior channel playing a Lord of the Rings game with the Bleak Season, and it's been super fun. We've got a lot of good players, and we're having a good time with it. And then this Friday will be the premiere of Lanata Turna, the next arc for that, which is a blast, and you'll hear more about it from maybe a couple of people who also happen to be in it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm just really excited to see if we survive the dark depths of the sea.
Well, that's for next week's Beth to worry about. This week's
Great.
Beth can just, relish in the attempted wooing of a Harengon, and we'll let that memory stew in Beth's mind for a little bit.
Great.
While Annika, please tell us about everything that you've got going on and maybe mention things happening in the future.
Yeah, so my name is Annika, and I am on social medias as Anine Wanders. This evening I played Bucket, a rambunctious robot or forged who is just trying to connect the dots and find a friend, maybe save the world. Just another Wednesday for Bucket. And in the future, I will be on a different portion of the Lord of the Rings arc that will be happening in later times. And then after that, I'm going to be doing a one-shot of the Obojima, which is a Kickstarter that just launched for a Studio Ghibli Legend of Zelda merger. So I'm very excited to use their playtest material soon.
Indeed, I'm looking forward to that one as well. Maybe in a couple of weeks we can actually plan the details of that, so we're not just vaguely implying what it is that is going to be. And Deb, I think you're also going to be doing some crazy fun things in the near future. Why don't you tell us a little bit about all that?
Sure, I do have some fun things coming up. I'm Deb. I have been playing Maeve, the plant witch. She's great. Loved tonight's episode with all of the fun lore and the nice little Easter egg from our past arc. So great. Such a delight. I'm here on Wednesdays and will be for the foreseeable future. And then I'm also in the Lanat Eterna arc coming up that starts Friday. That's also going to be just a ton of fun. A little bit different than this game, but that will be great. I'm looking forward to it. So,
to say the least.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that is going to be so much fun. I'm looking forward to it as well. I am Miko, otherwise known as the Okayest GM. You can find me on all the socials at most of the socials at _Okayest_GM, except for the silly places that don't allow underscores, and then it's just the Okayest GM. Anyway, I am also on the production team here. I'm going to be doing, many more things in the future. Pay attention to the socials for that. And please give all of these fine people a follow if you have not already, because they absolutely have earned everything that you can do for tuning into the awesomeness that they've got going on. We are going to raid over here in a few moments to Lost Caravan RPG. It looks like, if I'm seeing that right, that's a Scooby-Doo cosplay going on?
Yes!
We'll find out. Please give a shout out to everyone over there when you arrive. And I very much look forward to next week and hope you can all tune in for part 5 and the finale of Chaos Rising next Wednesday,
Dun, dun,
right here on this channel. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.